welcome to the SBTET Guidance, specifically focusing on Safety Engineering to Paper 3. In this video, we will cover a carefully curated list of important and past year questions designed to help you prepare effectively for your exams. The questions are organized based on their weightage, with both short and long answers. This structure will give you a better understanding of the key concepts and how to tackle them in the exam. Stay tuned and make sure to take notes. 1. Define PTW permit to work. A PTW is an authorization system used in industrial environments to ensure that work is carried out safely. It identifies the specific tasks to be done, the risks involved, and the safety precautions to be followed. 2. What is environment? The environment includes all living and non-living things occurring naturally, which provide the conditions necessary for life to thrive. 3. Define NDT, non-destructive testing. NDT is a group of techniques used to evaluate the properties of a material, component, or system without causing damage, commonly used for identifying defects in metals. 4. Write the need for safety in the textile industry. Safety in the textile industry is essential to prevent hazards such as fire risks, exposure to toxic chemicals, dust-related respiratory problems, and accidents from heavy machinery, ensuring a healthy working environment. 5. Define cleaner technologies. Cleaner technologies refer to innovations and practices that reduce waste, energy consumption, and environmental impact while improving the overall efficiency of industrial processes. 6. List down safety measures during welding. Use protective clothing and welding helmet. Ensure proper ventilation. Inspect and maintain welding equipment. Remove flammable materials from the welding area. Use fire-resistant barriers if needed. 7. What are the hazards during cargo handling? Struck by and crush injuries. Manual handling injuries, musculoskeletal disorders. Falls from height. Exposure to hazardous substances. 8. List down a few lifting appliances. Cranes. Hoists. Forklifts. Chain blocks. Winches. 9. Explain briefly about color codes of safety signs. Red, prohibition or fire equipment. Yellow, amber, warning. Blue, mandatory actions. Green, emergency exits, safety equipment. 10. List 4 safety requirements of the electrode holder in arc welding. Insulated handle. Secure grip on the electrode. Heat resistance. Avoidance of exposed electrical connections. 11. List various causes of accidents in dock work. Falling cargo. Slips, trips, and falls. Poorly maintained equipment. Improper handling of hazardous materials. Lack of proper training. 12. What are the health hazards in the sugar industry? Exposure to dust and bagasse leading to respiratory problems. Heat stress from high temperatures in processing areas. Chemical burns from exposure to chemicals used in refining. Noise-induced hearing loss. 13. Discuss safety tips at foundry operations. Wear personal protective equipment, PPE, including heat-resistant gloves, face shields, and aprons. Ensure proper ventilation to reduce exposure to fumes. Regularly inspect and maintain machinery. Implement fire prevention measures. Use lifting aids to prevent manual handling injuries. 14. How do we control fire and explosive hazards in the textile industry? Maintain clean working environments to reduce dust accumulation. Proper storage of flammable materials. Regular inspection of machinery for overheating. Implementing fire detection and suppression systems. Proper grounding of equipment to prevent static electricity. 15. List out points for safety in the use of construction machinery. Conduct pre-operational inspections. Ensure proper operator training and licensing. Install rollover protective structures, ROPS. Maintain clear communication on site. Use spotters for blind spots. 16. What are the hazards from welding gases? Inhalation of toxic fumes and gases. Risk of fire or explosion. Oxygen deficiency in enclosed spaces. Exposure to UV radiation causing eye and skin damage. 17. Write down safety precautions and operations of boilers. Regular maintenance and inspection. Ensure proper ventilation in boiler rooms. Install safety valves to prevent pressure buildup. Train operators on emergency procedures. Avoid overloading the boiler. 18. In what circumstances can a confined space work permit be issued? When there is a risk of toxic gas or oxygen deficiency. When work involves restricted entry or exit. When the space poses a potential engulfment hazard. When the atmosphere needs monitoring for hazardous gases. 19. Explain the need for a safety checklist. A safety checklist ensures that all safety procedures are followed, reducing the risk of accidents by verifying compliance with safety standards before, during, and after a task. 20. Define forging. Forging is a manufacturing process involving the shaping of metal using localized compressive forces, typically by hammering or pressing. 21. What are the common hazards in the agro industry? Exposure to pesticides and chemicals. Machinery-related injuries. Heat stress from working in outdoor environments. Respiratory problems from dust. 20. To list out various types of work permits. Hot work permit. Confined space entry permit. Electrical isolation permit. Excavation permit. Working at height permit. 23. What are the long-term health effects of a welder? Chronic lung conditions, example, metal fume fever, pneumonitis. Hearing loss from noise exposure. Eye damage from UV radiation. Increased risk of cancer from inhaling welding fumes. 24. List out the causes of accidents in boiler operations. Overpressure due to faulty valves. Low water levels causing overheating. Corrosion and metal fatigue. Poor maintenance and inspection practices. 25. What are the hazards in boiler operation? Explosions due to pressure buildup. Burns from hot surfaces or steam. Chemical exposure from treatment chemicals. Noise hazards from steam release. 26. Explain Monday fever. Monday fever refers to a condition where workers experience flu-like symptoms after a break, often due to exposure to dust or chemicals at the workplace. 27. List out the methods of controlling particulate emissions. Use of electrostatic precipitators. Installing bag filters. Cyclone separators. Wet scrubbers. 28. What is acid rain? Acid rain is rainfall that contains high levels of sulfuric and nitric acids, primarily caused by emissions of sulfur dioxide, SO2, and nitrogen oxides, NOx, from industrial processes. 29. List out 4 hazards in the automobile industry. Exposure to toxic fumes and chemicals. Injuries from machinery and equipment. Noise-induced hearing loss. Ergonomic issues from repetitive tasks. 30. List out the sources of air pollution. Industrial emissions. Vehicle exhaust. Agricultural activities, example, pesticides, fertilizers. Burning of fossil fuels. 31. What are the hazards in loading docks? Struck by hazards from forklifts or trucks. Falls from loading platforms. Manual handling injuries. Exposure to hazardous materials. 30 to list the points in a scaffold safety checklist. Ensure scaffolding is erected by trained personnel. Use of guardrails and toe boards. Inspect scaffold components regularly. Ensure proper load capacity. Use fall protection equipment. 33. What are the occupational health hazards in the textile industry and their preventive measures? Hazards: exposure to dust, chemicals, ergonomic strain, noise, and heat. Preventive measures: use of PPE, proper ventilation, ergonomic workstations, noise control measures, and regular health checkups. 34. List out common hazards in the agricultural industry. Machinery-related injuries. Chemical exposure, pesticides, fertilizers. Heat stress. Falls from height, ladders, equipment. 35. What are the hazards associated with mature and dry crops in the agro industry? Fire hazards due to dry, flammable material. Dust explosion risks. Allergic reactions to crop dust. Pesticide residue exposure. 36. Explain COSH, control of substances hazardous to health. COSH is a UK regulation requiring employers to control exposure to hazardous substances to protect workers from health risks. It involves risk assessment, control measures, and health monitoring. 37. What is confined space and what is its purpose? A confined space is an area that is not designed for continuous occupancy, has limited entry-exit, and poses risks such as toxic gases, oxygen deficiency, or potential for engulfment. The purpose of confined space entry permits is to ensure proper safety measures are in place before workers enter. 38. What are the operations carried out in the automobile industry? Assembly line work. Welding and metal fabrication. Painting and coating. Engine and parts testing. Vehicle maintenance and repair. 39. What are chemical hazards in the sugar industry? Discuss with examples. In the sugar industry, chemical hazards arise during various stages of production. Bagasse dust leads to respiratory diseases like bagasosis. Sulfur dioxide, so used in refining, can cause respiratory issues and asthma exacerbation. Caustic soda and acids pose risks of chemical burns and skin-eye irritation. Carbon dioxide, CO, and methane, released during fermentation, pose risks of suffocation and explosions. Example: workers exposed to sulfur dioxide in sugar bleaching may experience respiratory difficulties. 40. Explain in detail the safety measures that are to be followed at a construction site. Personal protective equipment, PPE. Workers must wear helmets, gloves, and safety boots. Fall protection, guardrails, safety nets, and harnesses for those working at heights. Scaffolding safety. Scaffolds should have guardrails and must be inspected regularly. Material handling. Properly store hazardous materials. Ensure safe lifting practices. Fire safety. Fire extinguishers should be available, and workers must be trained in their use. Housekeeping. Keep the worksite clean to avoid trips and falls. 41. List significant hazards in the jute industry and their corrective measures. Dust can cause respiratory problems. Control measures include using ventilation systems and providing masks. Machinery. Unshielded machines pose risks of injury. Machines should be equipped with safety guards. Chemical exposure. Workers are exposed to chemicals during dyeing and processing. Adequate PPE and ventilation should be provided. Ergonomic hazards. Manual handling can lead to musculoskeletal disorders. Provide training on proper lifting techniques. 40. To list various sources of air, and water pollution due to the sugar industry. Air pollution, emissions from boilers, bagasse burning, and vehicular emissions. Dust from sugarcane and bagasse can also pollute the air. Water pollution, wastewater containing organic materials, chemicals from sugar refining, and effluents from the molasses fermentation process. Control measures. Installing scrubbers for air pollution control. Treating wastewater through biological treatment methods before disposal. 43. Discuss the safety measures that need to be implemented in dockyards. Proper lighting ensure that dockyards are well lit to prevent accidents. Safe lifting practices. Use lifting equipment like cranes for heavy cargo, and workers should be trained in manual lifting techniques. PPE. Workers should wear hard hats, gloves, and protective shoes. Housekeeping. Keep walkways clear of obstructions to prevent slips and falls. Fire safety. Dockyards should have fire extinguishers, and workers should be trained in firefighting measures. 44. Discuss safety in boiler operations, the Boiler Act, preventive measures, and the required qualifications for boiler operators. Boiler safety includes regular inspection, proper maintenance, and following operational guidelines. Preventive measures, regular monitoring of pressure levels, temperature, and water levels. Boiler Act ensures that boilers are inspected and certified for safe use. Non-compliance can result in fines or closure. Qualifications for boiler operators. Operators must undergo specialized training and obtain certification to operate boilers. 45. Explain the step-by-step process of the work permit system from opening till closing of a permit in any operation. Requesting the permit. The supervisor or worker requests a permit for specific tasks such as hot work, confined space, or electrical work. Risk assessment. A safety officer assesses the risks associated with the task. Permit issuance. Once all safety precautions are in place, the permit is issued. Monitoring the work. The work is carried out under the supervision of a safety officer or supervisor. Closing the permit. After the task is completed, the permit is closed following a final inspection. 46. Discuss cleaner technologies. Cleaner technologies are methods that reduce pollution and waste in industrial processes. Examples include: energy-efficient machinery reduces energy consumption. Wastewater treatment recycles water for reuse in industries. Green chemicals, use of less toxic substances to minimize environmental impact. 47. Explain the boiler dry storage procedure. The dry storage procedure is used when a boiler is out of operation for an extended period. Key steps include: draining the boiler, remove all water from the system. Drying the interior, use heaters or fans to dry the internal surfaces to prevent corrosion. Applying a desiccant, place desiccants inside the boiler to absorb any residual moisture. Sealing the boiler, close all openings to prevent air ingress. 48. Explain water pollution and its effects. Water pollution occurs when harmful substances like chemicals, waste, or microorganisms contaminate water bodies. The effects include: health hazards. Contaminated water can cause diseases like cholera, dysentery, and poisoning. Ecosystem damage. Pollutants harm aquatic life, leading to the death of fish and other organisms. Soil contamination. Polluted water used for irrigation can degrade soil quality. 49. Explain safety tips for brushing. Proper ventilation. Ensure that there is adequate ventilation to avoid inhaling toxic fumes. PPE. Use gloves, goggles, and flame-resistant clothing to protect against burns. Fire safety. Keep fire extinguishers nearby, as brushing involves high temperatures. Equipment maintenance. Regularly check the brushing equipment for leaks and wear. 50. Explain safety tips used in docks. Training. Workers should be trained in proper lifting techniques and safe cargo handling. PPE. Use of helmets, gloves, and safety shoes is essential. Dock safety. Ensure all areas are well lit and free of obstructions. Machinery inspection. Regularly inspect lifting machinery and tools to avoid accidents. 51. Explain the liquid waste treatment process. Screening removes large solids from the wastewater. Sedimentation allows solids to settle at the bottom, separating them from the liquid. Biological treatment. Microorganisms break down organic matter in the water. Chemical treatment uses chemicals to neutralize harmful substances. Filtration filters out any remaining solids or contaminants. Discharge. Treated water is either reused or safely discharged into the environment. 50. To list out vehicle safety rules. Seat belts. Always wear seat belts when driving or riding. Speed limits. Follow the speed limits as per the road and area conditions. Defensive driving. Be cautious of other drivers and avoid aggressive driving. Vehicle maintenance. Regularly service vehicles to ensure proper functioning. No mobile phones. Avoid using mobile phones while driving. Use hands-free if necessary. Rest breaks. Take breaks on long trips to avoid fatigue. 53. Discuss the types of furnaces, hazards, and safety precautions while working with furnaces. Types of furnaces. Electric furnaces use electrical energy to produce heat. Blast furnaces used in metallurgy, especially for steel making. Induction furnaces use electromagnetic induction to heat materials. Hazards. Heat, risk of burns due to high temperatures. Explosion, improper pressure control can lead to explosions. Toxic fumes, emission of gases like carbon monoxide during operations. Safety precautions. Wear heat-resistant PPE, including gloves and face shields. Regular maintenance of furnaces and pressure control systems. Ensure proper ventilation to disperse toxic fumes. 54. Describe briefly about work permits, their types, and objectives. A work permit system is a formal written process used to authorize specific high-risk tasks. It ensures that safety procedures are followed before, during, and after the task. Types of work permits. Hot work permit for tasks involving heat or sparks, welding, cutting. Confined space permit for entering and working in enclosed areas. Electrical work permit for working on live electrical systems. Cold work permit for low-risk tasks that do not involve high temperatures or hazardous energy. Objective. Ensure safe operations and reduce the risk of accidents. Provide a controlled environment for high-risk tasks. Identify potential hazards and implement control measures. 55. List out the hazards in dock work. Falling loads, risks from cargo falling during lifting or loading operations. Slips, trips, and falls, poor housekeeping can lead to accidents. Manual handling injuries, strains or injuries from lifting heavy loads. Machinery hazards, risks from cranes, forklifts, and other dock machinery. Exposure to hazardous materials, handling chemicals or hazardous cargo can lead to health risks. 56. Discuss the hazards in the automobile industry and preventive measures. Hazards. Chemical exposure, paints, solvents, and lubricants can cause skin and respiratory issues. Machinery, heavy machinery, such as presses, pose risks of crush injuries. Fire hazards, flammable materials and fuel increase the risk of fire. Preventive measures. Use of PPE, including gloves, goggles, and respirators. Regular maintenance and inspections of machinery. Ensure proper ventilation in areas where paints or chemicals are used. Install fire alarms and extinguishers throughout the facility. 57. What are the safe measures taken in boiler operation above atmospheric pressure? Pressure gauges. Regularly monitor pressure levels to ensure they stay within safe limits. Safety valves. Install and test safety valves to release excess pressure. Regular inspections. Conduct periodic inspections to check for leaks, cracks, or faulty parts. Training. Ensure that all boiler operators are adequately trained in safe operational practices. Water treatment. Use proper water treatment to prevent scale formation, which can lead to overheating and explosions. 58. What are the occupational health hazards in the sugar industry, and what control measures are needed? Health hazards. Bagasosis, a respiratory condition caused by exposure to bagasse dust. Heat stress. Workers are exposed to high temperatures in mills and boilers. Chemical exposure. Exposure to chemicals like sulfur dioxide, caustic soda, and lime. Control measures. Use of dust control measures like wet methods or dust extractors. Provide proper ventilation and ensure workers take breaks to avoid heat stress. Ensure workers wear appropriate PPE when handling chemicals. 59. Explain the types of excavation supporting methods. Sloping and benching. Sloping the sides of the excavation to prevent collapses. Shoring. Installing supports like timber or metal shoring to hold the walls in place. Shielding. Trench boxes. Using trench boxes to protect workers in the trench. Soil nailing. Installing steel bars into the sides of the excavation to provide additional support. 60. Explain long-term health effects of being a welder. Respiratory issues. Long-term exposure to welding fumes can lead to chronic bronchitis, lung damage, or even cancer. Eye damage. Prolonged exposure to UV light from welding arcs can cause cataracts or other eye problems, commonly known as welder's flash. Skin conditions. UV radiation from welding can cause skin burns and an increased risk of skin cancer. Musculoskeletal disorders. Repetitive motions and awkward postures during welding may lead to chronic joint and muscle pain. Thanks for watching. For guidance on important topics and key questions for the exam, don't forget to follow my channel, Funny EH's Info. We provide you with the best content to help you excel in your career.
This is all about today's topic. Thanks for watching Funny EH's Info. And don't forget to subscribe our channel to get immediate notification of our videos. Share our videos to your friends and colleagues to create safety awareness. If you have any questions and requirements, please comment in comment box.